All right, good evening. I received a weird comment about the Bruins acquiring Sean Monahan, and it kind of intrigued my interest. At first, I was like, it seems kind of bizarre, but the more I looked into it, the more realistic it seemed to be. Shout out to Brave187 for being the first subscriber and the suggestion. This is actually really fascinating to look at. We're going to dive a little deeper into it. Sean Monahan, 27 years old. Still young, middle aged for NHL standards. He was the sixth overall pick in the 2013 draft. In 2018 season, he had his career high in goals, assists, points. He had 34 goals, 48 assists, and 82 points in total, which is an excellent season. Playing over a point per game. He only played 78 games. And since then, he's kind of regressed quite a bit. So 2018-2019, in 70 games, he had 48 points, which is still a decent season. Then 2021, which is last year, in 50 games, he had 28 points. So now we're edging more towards a half point per game. In 21-22, now he is currently through 23 games he's played, and he has 2 goals and 8 assists for 10 points, which is under a half point a game. It's also notable he has a 10-team no movement clause. He doesn't have any ties to Boston. He's played in Calgary. He's played in Ottawa. No really ties to America, as far as I could find. If you guys can find anything, let me know. That'd be intriguing. So over on the side of the board, we have kind of notable players that the Bruins might be willing to move. Debrusk obviously requested a trade at $3.675 million. Riley makes $3 million. He's a third line defensive pairing at this point. It's not really a sustainable structure to have for your defense, to be paying that much for a third line defensive player under this current salary cap. We have Holla, who's been underperforming. He makes $2.375 million a year. I love Holla. Personally, I don't want him to see him leave Boston. I think he has a lot of potential. He adds a lot of pizzazz to the game when he goes hard and plays. And then I have Zaboral on this list. I know there's a lot of discussion about Sweeney not wanting to let go of that 2015 draft. Zaboral was drafted alongside Debrusk and there. And I personally love Zaboral. He's come along like a fantastic defenseman this season, and he went down last game with an injury. So I don't know. I think with the depth, and you have Jack Khan knocking on the door to earn an NHL spot as well. You have almost too many defensemen. And then you have Trent Frederick. He could be a notable person we see moved. He's been on the team for a few years. He's not a new signing. He is a young guy with potential. He's starting to play more than just a physical game. His name might also come up in one of these package deals with Debrusk if a package deal happens. Personally, I think it should, but we'll see what Sweeney does. So I really got into this. I was looking at, maybe they make a three-way trade with Seattle. What does Calgary need? What does Seattle need? And I was thinking maybe Mason Appleton gets sent to Calgary, and maybe the Bruins send Debrusk to Seattle and Riley to Calgary. And I was really looking at the team's needs. The Flames need a third or second line center. Monahan's been swapping back and forth with Backlund for the second and third line spot. Both have been severely underperforming. So then I got to thinking, who else is on the block? Well, Dylan Strome at a cap hit of $3 million, and he can be a second line center. Backlund's getting a little older. I love Backlund. He's a fantastic player. He's starting to get a little older, and his performance is regressing. They have their fourth line center spot locked up at Brad Richardson. I don't see him being a third line center at this point in his career, and that's all right. He's not there to be a third line center. So down at the bottom, this is kind of where I have this trade, um, this kind of proposed trade. And just keep in mind, this is purely speculation based off of this comment. I just thought it was really intriguing to look at. And I thought it'd be beneficial for really all teams to really at least entertain the thought of this. So we'll start with the Bruins right in the middle. You have the Bruins acquiring Sean Monahan. They desperately need a second line center who has a high ceiling, a lot of capability. He hasn't quite yet proved he can be a first line center as of the last couple of years, but go back to 2018, 2019, he can be. So if Patrice Bergeron gets hurt or whatever, maybe he ends up retiring after this year, I don't think that'll happen, but you never know at this point. Monahan could at least step into that role. I think his cap hits 6.37 million a year or something. So to make that work cap-wise, the Bruins and the Flames are both at the cap. The Bruins would have to unload cap to afford Sean Monahan. And that's kind of where I have Riley come in. The other guys, you could trade Holla, but is there a demand for Holla? Not really, not with these teams anyway. So here's kind of what I formulated. Again, Bruins get Monahan. The Blackhawks will receive Jake Debrusk and Mike Riley. They need a winger that can score, at least on the second or third line. Doesn't really matter where he ends up with the Blackhawks. They need depth scoring. They also don't have it, just as the Bruins don't. And their defense, they have a great first line pairing, and they have one great second liner. They have Jack McCabe on the second line as well, and I love McCabe. He plays a great defensive game, but he's a -8 this season. He doesn't produce offense, whereas Riley will come in, affordable second liner, $3 million a year. He plays a very responsible defensive game and can step up in the offensive zone and provide production for your team. It's last year when the Bruins acquired him, and this year he's shown spark when he can jump up into the play and kind of change the momentum of the game, which is a fantastic attribute. So with that, we have the Flames acquiring Dylan Strome from the Blackhawks. You have to throw in picks somewhere. You can't just lose Monahan and acquire Dylan Strome and call it a fair trade, because it's not. I think the Hawks kind of. So here's kind of where I get into it with the picks. The Bruins are getting Sean Monahan. They're giving up a third line defensive pairing and a guy that wants to be traded. They got to give up a little more. Honestly, I think a third liner will work. And then the Hawks are receiving Debrusk and Riley for just Dylan Strome, who is also on the block. So I think they'll have to give up a pick as well. So I have the Flames receiving Dylan Strome, who they need a capable center, and he can hopefully step into the third line. He'll step into the third line, no problem. Hopefully he can step into the second line, be a center there. But I also have him receiving a second and a third round pick, second from the Blackhawks and third round from the Bruins. The Bruins are giving up Debrusk, Riley, and a third round pick for Sean Monahan, essentially. The Blackhawks will be giving up Dylan Strome and a second round pick for Debrusk and Riley. So you can kind of look at it any way you want. The Blackhawks get Debrusk for Strome, or you can look and they get Riley for a second round pick for a second line defenseman. And the Flames will be intrigued in this. I know they're kind of looking to keep a younger core, and this might help with the picks and what's supposed to be a stacked draft. We'll see. I think it will be, but I think a lot of it's speculation, because the last draft was weak, and it kind of was. But does that mean this year's going to be strong? We'll see. So I think this is an intriguing trade. I want to hear what you guys think. If this is, if they're given too much, what team's given too much, what team's given too little. I honestly, this is probably the best case scenario for all three teams that I could think of, or that's come up in the last, I don't know, since Debrusk publicly made a trade request. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it, and have a good night.